Okay, hello everybody. It looks like the lighting here is not so great. Let me deal with the lighting for a second. Let's see if we can improve that. Still pretty dark. 1 second. Okay, how's that? Now that's really dark. I'm getting there. Okay, let's try this. Ah, beautiful. Awesome. Okay, so stories like this that one of the very important ideas is basically seeing the world from the inside out. And what that means is as follows. When you look at the world, you're looking at the outer dimension of reality. You're not looking at what it really is. You're actually looking at what it really isn't. There's a teaching in Kabbalah that in the year 1840, approximately, so this was a prediction, hi, good to see you, for many, many years ago, that the wisdom of above and below will converge in anticipation of the coming of the Mashiach. Now, the wisdom of above, this is Hasidus, particularly with the Rebbe Rashab, who opened up the gateways of understanding Jewish mysticism. And the wisdom of below, this is science and physics, especially quantum physics. And amazingly, they both converge. They both say the same thing. I was at a lecture by a professor, David Imbo. He's a Harvard graduate, PhD in physics, and he's an adjunct professor in the University of Chicago. He has a team of 1,000 theoretical physicists, the deepest physics studies. They've been studying for 40 years math and physics and religion and philosophy, because a lot of it's quite mystical. And basically, the bottom line is that what physics says, and somebody said to him in the lecture, from 40 years of study, which religion or philosophy is most like quantum physics? And he said Chabad Hasidus. So what Chabad Hasidus is teaching us and what quantum physics is teaching us is basically the same thing, which is really quite amazing, because science is looking from the outside in. We're looking at what the reality is, and then we are actually we're saying, okay, well, now we're looking at reality from the outside in. But Hasidus, mysticism, is looking for the inside out. It's like from the mind of God. He's telling you what reality is. So it's actually a lot deeper. It's more meaningful. It's more accurate. But science amazingly corroborates like these miraculous ideas that, the world is coming in and out of existence every single second. Nobody could have imagined that. Some people thought that the universe always existed. And then people thought there's a Big Bang, but it turns out every second it's coming in and out of existence. All atoms coming in and out of existence. And that's what Hasidus says, and quantum physics says the same thing. And we can prove this. We see it. So this is really an amazing event. So the point is that we're looking at a world and we're looking from our own perspective. We're looking for the perspective of the human eye. And the human eye is limited, right? Right now, I saw this in a Kabbalah book. Every time you look, you're seeing a lie. It looks like you're seeing something physical, but it's not something physical. It's energy, right? Matter is energy. And not only is it energy, we know it's a wave format. When you look at it, it becomes a particle, it becomes stationary. So really, if you want to understand the world, you can't understand it from your eyes, because your eyes are not seeing the truth of the reality. You have to understand it from the inside out, from the way God sees the world and the way the world truly is. And the truth of reality boils down to two things. First of all, it's called Ein Od Milvado. There's only God. The only reality that really exists in the world is God himself. And the second is that you are God, that you also have a soul, and that soul is God, because all life comes from life. Energy, remember somebody once told me, where does energy come from? And I didn't have an answer. He says, energy comes from energy, which is true. For fire creates heat. If you have something that's hot, it had to have a fire, something that made it hot. It doesn't get hot on its own. So energy creates energy, life creates life. So God, the creator of life, the source of life, is your life. You just don't realize it because you think, because he didn't give you the wisdom, or more accurately, he gave us the perception that we exist in an independent way. So this is very, very important, that life makes life. And therefore, if one fire makes another fire, then the second fire is really part of the first fire, particularly if the first fire just hid itself to make a space for the second fire. So it's not like we exist outside of God. Everything exists within God. He just hides himself in order that we can exist. So very interestingly, there's something called mycelium. We now know that trees communicate with each other, and there's something called a mother tree, which is kind of the ancient or the oldest tree in a tribe. And so this researcher that discovered about mycelium, so she thought, well, maybe the mother tree will actually make way for her children. And it's really quite amazing, because you wouldn't think of a tree as a conscious entity and conscious of its own seeds, but it is. From its own seeds, for its own children, it will actually reduce some of its trunk in order for the children to have space to grow. And so Hashem reduces his own self, if you want to call it that, in order for us to grow. Just like any healthy parent, you reduce some of your own space in order to make space for the child so the child can grow, and you give to the child. And that's really what God is. It's the combination of, they call it helicopter parents, but more accurately, it's hovering. You give the other person the space to be. At the same time, you actually are always there for them, always ready to tell them, once in a while, step in to save them, give them advice, give them freedom of choice, and also the advice and just the availability to you. But the main thing that I want to bring out in this class is just this one point, because the Rebbe makes this point very strongly in this week's Sikha, and that is, we are here, listen very carefully, please, we are here to realize the inner dimension. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, oh, wow, there's a world because I see the world. That's not a big deal. It takes a rocket scientist to say, oh, wow, there actually is only God, because everything comes from him in every moment. And therefore, all of life, including my life, is coming from him this moment. Therefore, my identity, my soul is really him. And if I don't realize that, it's not because there's a fault in the system. It's because the system was created that I should see myself as an independent person. And then, most importantly, the goal of life is this. I am here to serve my creator. I am actually a creation of the creator. In fact, I am the creator. And I'm here to express that in reality. So now the question of life is not, what's the best tasting cupcake or chocolate. The question of life is, how do I actually express my inner soul? And then obviously I like to say, if you want to know who you are, is how are you born? Are you a Jew? Are you a male, a female, Gentile? That's your mission, because God has a special mission for Jews and a special mission for Gentiles. 613 laws for the Jewish people, the 7 Noahide laws for the Gentiles. For a male, obviously, to get married, have children, a female as well, but obviously to take care of each other in the respective ways. And this is what life is about. Life is about being the expression of the God that has made you, in fact, the God that is you. L'chaim v'levracha.